Hyunsu was delighted by this wonderful coincidence. But what she didn't know was that Sayla actually disliked her. Sayla had also liked Yanho in college, but he had ended up marrying Hyunsu instead. To keep Hyunsu out of the company, Sayla casually flipped through Hyunsu's designs and told her to wait for notification. Hyunsu remembered that Sayla's mother and her mother-in-law were high school friends, so she asked Sayla if she had any news about her mother-in-law. At that time, Hyunsu's mother-in-law was actually the chairman's wife of the group. Sayla obviously knew this, but she didn't want Hyunsu to connect with the chairman's wife, so she lied and said she didn't know the lady's whereabouts either. At that very moment, the lady was actually meeting with Sayla's mother at a restaurant. Sayla's mother desperately wanted her daughter to marry into a wealthy family, so she kept trying to flatter the lady, but her thoughtless mouth got her into trouble right away. She said the lady was so lucky, losing her husband and son but still managing to marry into wealth. When you think about it, that's not a bad deal at all. These words directly infuriated the lady. She picked up a glass of water and threw it in her face. The two completely fell out. After learning about her mother's foolish behavior, Sayla could only rush to the lady's house to apologize. The lady had no choice but to let her sit down. Just then, the chairman came home. Sayla actually told the chairman that the lady had invited her for dinner. This blatant lie disgusted the lady. At that moment, the conglomerate's youngest daughter Yojin came home. Working in the HR department, she asked Sayla if she had seen Hyunsu come for an interview. Hearing the familiar name, the lady was shocked. Sayla quickly lied that it was just someone with the same name. The lady didn't think much of it after hearing this. Soon it was the anniversary of Hyunsu's father-in-law and husband's deaths. She brought her son Isong to pay respects. Isong wandered off while playing and happened to meet the lady, who had also come to pay respects to her husband. Isong called her grandmother right away. The lady didn't immediately understand what Isong meant. Just then, Hyunsu came to call her son back. When the lady looked up, she saw her daughter-in-law whom she hadn't seen in 7 years. Both were incredibly moved to see each other. The lady also realized that Isong standing before her was her grandson. She deeply regretted abandoning Hyunsu years ago and felt profound guilt toward Hyunsu's family. Hyunsu's grandmother invited the lady to stay with them. The lady felt awkward hearing this and had to reveal that she had remarried. Everyone was somewhat surprised, but the lady didn't tell them she was now the wife of a conglomerate chairman. After returning home, the lady told the chairman about reuniting with her in-laws. The chairman was happy for her and congratulated her on finding her own blood relative. However, the lady couldn't feel happy. The chairman's ex-wife had previously warned her that if she discovered the lady had her own blood relatives, she would stop at nothing to seize all the assets for her 3 children. Because of this, the lady could only temporarily keep her grandson's existence a secret from outsiders. Meanwhile, to prevent Hyunsu from joining the company, Sayla rejected Hyunsu's job application, claiming her designs didn't meet company requirements. But she never expected that with Dojin's help, Hyunsu still successfully joined the group. This made Sayla even more upset. 7 years ago, shortly after Hyunsu successfully married Yanho, Sayla turned her attention to Dojin. She had been eyeing the position of daughter-in-law in the conglomerate family ever since. To prevent Hyunsu from ruining her plans, Sayla lied to Hyunsu, saying she and Dojin had been dating for 7 years. She hoped Hyunsu would keep her distance from Dojin. Kind-hearted Hyunsu believed her and started deliberately keeping her distance from Dojin. At the same time, when the chairman learned that the lady was afraid to reveal her grandson because she was worried about his ex-wife, he immediately promised to protect the lady and her grandson with all his might. He promptly called a family meeting and announced the grandson's existence. The next day, to prevent Dojin and Hyunsu from getting together, Sayla spread rumors in the company. She said single mom Hyunsu would stop at nothing to seduce the conglomerate's second son Dojin. For a while, all the colleagues were very displeased with Hyunsu. Dojin found out about this. Without hesitation, he severely scolded the employees. This deeply moved Hyunsu. Meanwhile, to get revenge on the lady for throwing water on her, Sayla's mother contacted the chairman's ex-wife in a fit of anger. She revealed that the lady had found her daughter-in-law and grandson. The chairman's ex-wife, Cheontae-hwa, was a formidable character. She immediately flew back. Naturally, neither had a pleasant expression when they met. Cheontae-hwa couldn't understand how the lady found her grandson just 1 month after getting married. This situation clearly indicated deliberate concealment, obviously planning to use the grandson after marriage to compete with her children for the family fortune. Although Cheontae-hwa wasn't someone to mess with, the lady was equally fearless. She immediately retorted, telling Cheontae-hwa not to meddle in her family affairs and ordering her to leave. Cheontae-hwa knew her status wasn't appropriate for staying there, so after saying what she needed to say, she wisely left. To take down the lady, Cheontae-hwa had Sayla's mother take her to Hyunsu's house, but as soon as she got out of the car, she felt uneasy about the surroundings. A bad memory suddenly surfaced. 20 years ago, Cheontae-hwa had secretly gone on a date with her boyfriend behind the chairman's back. She ended up hitting a motorcycle with her car, killing the driver on the spot. The driver's wife saw what Cheontae-hwa looked like. Afterward, the driver's wife couldn't accept the reality and became mentally unstable. But every time she saw Cheontae-hwa, her emotions would inexplicably spiral out of control. The motorcycle driver and his wife were Hyunsu's father and mother. Cheontae-hwa arrived at Hyunsu's house. Not seeing Hyunsu at home, she handed an envelope of money to the grandmother, telling her to have Hyunsu take the money and leave with her child. But then Cheontae-hwa spotted Yanho's photo on the table. This reminded her of another past event she didn't want to remember. 7 years ago, to cover up the fact that she had killed someone with her car, she deliberately lured her boyfriend to the seaside and silenced him. Who knew that Yanho happened to pass by and witness this scene? To hide her crime, Cheontae-hwa bribed assassins to tamper with the fishing boat Yanho and his father were taking out to sea. This directly led to Yanho and his father perishing in the ocean. Learning that Yanho was the lady's son, Cheontae-hwa was scared out of her wits and fled in panic. Right after she left, Hyunsu returned home. Learning that the chairman's ex-wife had come to her door, Hyunsu couldn't help but worry about her mother-in-law and son's safety. Soon after, when the lady went to see her grandson, Hyunsu's mother told her she had seen Yanho on TV. The lady quickly asked what Yanho was was doing at the time. Hyunsu's mother said he was sleeping, and there was a red flower pot by the bed. Because Hyunsu's mother had mental issues, the lady didn't take her in-laws' words seriously. Since no one believed what Hyunsu's mother said, she felt very frustrated. At that time, a TV station was holding an amateur singing competition. In her confusion, she thought that appearing on TV would help find Yanho, so she took her grandson to participate in the singing competition, desperately performing while holding up missing person flyers. This scene moved the production team. They decided to create a special missing person video. Hyunsu later learned that Dojin had signed her mother up for the show. She sincerely thanked Dojin. Hyunsu had always thought Dojin and Sayla had been in love for 7 years, so she told Dojin to treat Sayla well. Only then did Dojin realize why Hyunsu was keeping her distance. He quickly explained that they only knew each other and weren't dating. After hearing this, Hyunsu realized Sayla had been deceiving her all along. On the other side, jealous that Hyunsu and Dojin were getting close, Sayla deliberately sought out Cheon Tae-hwa. She told her about Hyunsu's cursed fate. Cheon Tae-hwa could hardly believe what she heard. She couldn't tolerate her son associating with such a woman. So that very day, she rushed to the company. She cornered Hyunsu as she was about to leave work. Without a word, she slapped Hyunsu across the face. She cursed Hyunsu as a shameless thing, using her looks to try to seduce a rich young master. Being suddenly hit made Hyunsu feel very wronged. Just then, Dojin walked in and witnessed the scene. Only when he heard them talking did Hyunsu realize they were mother and son. Cheon Tae-hwa never expected her actions would backfire. After being inexplicably humiliated by Cheon Tae-hwa, Hyunsu stayed far away from Dojin. Dojin, seeing the woman he liked trying to keep her distance, naturally wasn't pleased. So every day he stuck to Hyunsu like a shadow. This resulted in them getting stuck in the company's revolving door, making quite a scene. Watching them play around at the entrance made Sayla extremely jealous, so she started making things difficult for Hyunsu at work. Using her position as team leader, she assigned Hyunsu to clean the dirty, messy warehouse. Hyunsu had no choice but to comply. Just as Hyunsu was struggling to move heavy items, Dojin came in like a shadow to help. He insisted on staying there to help her organize the warehouse. Because of Dojin's persistent spirit, their relationship eased somewhat. Unexpectedly, the lady happened to witness this scene when she came to the company. Only then did she realize her former daughter-in-law was working at her husband's company. Seeing Hyunsu and her stepson Dojin laughing and talking, she also realized that Dojin liked Hyunsu. For a moment, she didn't know how to handle this relationship. The company was holding a new product launch that day. When Sayla learned that both the lady and Hyunsu would be at the event, she deliberately sent Hyunsu to the sample room to get merchandise to prevent the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law from meeting. Then she locked Hyunsu in the warehouse. Hyunsu discovered the door was locked and cried out for help, but got no response. Seeing the meeting was about to start, Hyunsu tried to force the door open. Who knew she'd accidentally knock over a shelf, with the metal frame falling straight toward her. On the other side, Dojin discovered Hyunsu was missing and couldn't contact her. Learning she was in the sample room, he ignored the upcoming meeting and chose to look for Hyunsu. But when he opened the door, he froze. Hyunsu arrived at the conference room in a disheveled state, just as she was about to explain being locked in the sample room. Before she could speak, Cheon Tae-hwa appeared at the venue. Everyone was stunned. It turned out Cheon Tae-hwa had conspired with her eldest son Sungjin to swallow up the group as investors. Only then did the chairman realize his eldest son had betrayed him. The chairman got so angry he fainted on the spot. This forced the launch event to be suspended. Sayla, afraid Hyunsu would discover she had locked her in the warehouse, panicked and decided to delete the surveillance footage. But she found Hyunsu walking out of the surveillance room. Hyunsu couldn't understand why her former classmate would stab her in the back. At that moment, Sayla stopped pretending. She told Hyunsu she had also secretly loved Hyunsu's husband Yanho in college, but Hyunsu had gotten there first. Now the Dojin she'd liked for 7 years was entangled with Hyunsu again. How could she swallow this anger? If Hyunsu was smart, she shouldn't stay in the same company. At that moment, the former good classmates completely fell out. To be with Dojin, Sayla came to the house again to find the chairman. She told him that Hyunsu and Dojin already had bad rumors circulating in the company. She stated bluntly that the two absolutely couldn't be together. At that time, the chairman didn't know Hyunsu was the lady's former daughter-in-law. The lady's heart couldn't help but panic, thinking Sayla was going to tell the chairman about Hyunsu's identity. But ultimately Sayla didn't say it. She only said Hyunsu was a single mom with a cursed fate who killed her husband. The chairman understood that Sayla had pursued Dojin for 7 years without success. He decided to have both sets of parents arrange a marriage between her and Dojin. Sayla was thrilled to get the result she wanted, but she also realized the lady hadn't told the chairman about Hyunsu. However, what Sayla didn't expect was that to gain higher status, Sayla's mother agreed to Cheon Tae-hwa's proposal to have Sayla marry Sungjin instead, thereby seizing the chairman's position at the company. Meanwhile, when Hyunsu's mother went out, she was accidentally pulled into a nursing home tour group. She thought getting in the van would take her home, but after getting off, she found the surroundings completely unfamiliar. Hyunsu's mother was terrified. Just then, a dementia patient recognized Hyunsu's mother. Without explanation, he forcibly pulled her into a hospital room, saying there was someone she was looking for from the TV show. It turned out the TV station singing competition that Hyunsu's mother had participated in had aired. This patient had recognized that his fellow patient looked exactly like Yanho from the TV. Hyunsu's mother skeptically approached the bed step by step. Sure enough, she saw Yanho, who had been missing for 7 years. She kept calling Yanho's name, but Yanho was a vegetative patient and had no response. Just then, a staff member came in for rounds. Seeing Hyunsu's mother, thinking she was a patient from another room, they prepared to take her back. Hyunsu's mother had no choice but to kick the staff member hard when they weren't paying attention, then escape from their sight at lightning speed. Because Hyunsu's mother stayed in the hospital room and forgot to go home, Hyunsu frantically searched for her mother outside. She searched everywhere her mother had been but found nothing. Fortunately, Dojin saw a nearby surveillance camera, so he immediately rushed to the security office to retrieve nearby surveillance footage. Sure enough, they discovered Hyunsu's mother mother had gotten into a nursing home van. Dojin quickly took Hyunsu there. Hearing her daughter's voice calling out, Hyunsu's mother excitedly ran out and grabbed her daughter to tell her about Yanho. But before she could finish, the staff rushed over. This scared Hyunsu's mother into hiding behind Hyunsu, afraid these people would take her away. Under the staff's urging, Hyunsu had no choice but to take her mother away. But her mother knew Yanho was lying right there and refused to leave. Hyunsu thought her mother was talking nonsense. Exhausted from the day, Hyunsu suddenly exploded. She furiously accused her mother of making unreasonable scenes in the middle of the night. Hyunsu's mother was frightened by her daughter's angry appearance and could only pitifully follow them home. Because of this, Hyunsu missed the chance to find Yanho. After Hyunsu's mother returned home safely, Hyunsu was very grateful for Dojin's help that day. She hadn't yet realized that through today's events, she had fallen in love with Dojin. To prevent Hyunsu and Dojin from being together, the lady had to come to Hyunsu's house. She was prepared to reveal her relationship with Dojin, but as soon as she entered, Hyunsu's mother couldn't wait to tell what happened yesterday. However, even though Hyunsu's mother spoke with certainty, the family just wouldn't believe her. Because no one believed her, Hyunsu's mother felt very frustrated. She kept wanting to find her son-in-law. Worried that Hyunsu's mother would get lost again, Dojin took her to the nursing home. But unfortunately, they only saw an empty bed. Just as they were about to leave, unexpectedly the lady appeared behind them. Dojin was very surprised why his stepmother was there. Then he heard Hyunsu's mother call the lady Yanho's mother. Dojin's mind went completely blank. After thinking for a long time, Dojin finally realized that the Hyunsu he liked was actually his stepmother's daughter-in-law. For a moment, Dojin didn't know how to face Hyunsu. At that time, Hyunsu didn't know about Dojin and the lady's relationship. Seeing Dojin's gloomy expression, Hyunsu was very puzzled. In their subsequent interactions, Dojin showed distance and coldness toward Hyunsu for the first time. This left Hyunsu confused. Soon the company organized a team-building mountain climbing trip. Hyunsu almost slipped, but was caught in time by Dojin. Although they quickly separated, in Sayla's eyes, Hyunsu did it on purpose. So after everyone left, she warned Hyunsu that knowing she had a widow's curse, she shouldn't casually seduce others, causing them to become unfortunate because of her. These words deeply hurt Hyunsu's heart. After all, Hyunsu had always felt guilty, wondering if it was because of her that Yanho died. Hyunsu demanded Sayla apologize, but instead she got slapped in the face. To numb her painful heart, Hyunsu could only keep drinking. In a daze, Hyunsu saw Yanho appear before her. She apologized to Yanho. 7 years was too long a time. She seemed to have forgotten Yanho. Her heart had started beating for someone else. Hyunsu tried hard to see the person across from her clearly, only to discover it was Dojin. Dojin decided to ignore others' opinions and protect Hyunsu forever. But then a glass of ice water was splashed on Hyunsu's face. Sayla looked angrily at the scene before her. She directly revealed the relationship between the lady and Dojin. Hyunsu couldn't believe what she heard. This made it even more impossible for her to be with Dojin. She knew what it was like to wait for someone for 7 years, so she hoped Dojin would treat Sayla well. But in Sayla's eyes, Hyunsu was being fake. Sayla raised her glass to splash Hyunsu's face again. This time Dojin stopped her and smashed the glass on the ground. This scared Sayla. Dojin wanted to scold Sayla, but when he turned around, he saw Sayla had already shed tears. To get revenge on Hyunsu, Sayla deliberately told Cheontaewa about Dojin confessing to Hyunsu. Hearing this, Cheontaewa completely lost it. She immediately ran to Hyunsu's house. Without a word, she started beating Hyunsu violently. Kind-hearted Hyunsu didn't fight back. When grandmother saw her granddaughter being bullied, she immediately stepped forward to help. Just like that, 3 women of different ages fought together. When Dojin arrived to break up the fight, he only saw the chaotic battlefield. At this moment, grandmother no longer had her previous warmth toward Dojin. She blamed him for hiding his identity, causing Hyunsu to become a woman despised by others. After teaching Hyunsu a lesson, Cheontaewa wasn't satisfied. She ran to the chairman's house, demanding that Hyunsu be kicked out of the company and that the lady immediately leave this home. But when Cheontaewa was arrogantly denouncing the lady, Dojin came home. Dojin told his family that he was the one who fell in love with Hyunsu. Seeing her son going against her wishes for a woman he shouldn't love, Cheontaewa lost control emotionally and blamed everything on the lady. The chairman also finally learned that Dojin had fallen in love with his wife's former daughter-in-law. He directly warned Dojin that he must marry Sayla this year. If Dojin continued to be stubborn, he would sever their father-son relationship. After learning about the situation at Dojin's house, Sayla came to show off to Hyunsu triumphantly. This made Hyunsu both angry and guilty after hearing it. Dojin was unwilling to give up Hyunsu even if it meant severing his relationship with the chairman. But Hyunsu could never put down that heavy burden in her heart. The lady standing in the distance watched the scene before her, her heart full of guilt. They clearly loved each other deeply but couldn't be together because of her. She knew these years Hyunsu had lived a hard life alone raising her child. She also hoped Hyunsu could let go of her obsession with Yanho and start a new life. Finally, she decided to stop opposing Hyunsu and Dojin's relationship. After all, there was no blood relationship between them. But after hearing this, the chairman strongly opposed the lady's idea. Meanwhile, Dojin took the initiative to find his mother, begging her to accept Hyunsu. But her son's persistence made Cheontaewa's actions become even crazier. The next day, she secretly posted intimate photos of Hyunsu and Dojin all over the company. Instantly, everyone accused Hyunsu of being a scheming woman who would stop at nothing to marry into wealth. Under the pressure of company public opinion, Hyunsu couldn't hold on anymore. She decided to leave the company and completely cut ties with Dojin. But even after Hyunsu left the company, Sayla still didn't let her go. Sayla directly spread the news that Hyunsu had fallen in love with her mother-in-law's stepson throughout the community. For a while, Hyunsu's family became the target of everyone's criticism. The neighborhood ladies accused Hyunsu of being a morally corrupt woman and prevented Hyunsu's son from going to school. To protect Hyunsu and the child, the family directly fought with the rumor mongers. Hyunsu's son Isong fainted from excessive shock. Seeing this, the family quickly sent Isong to the hospital. Sayla hid in a corner watching all this with schadenfreude. On the other other side, Officer Huang, who had been investigating Yanho's disappearance case, discovered Yanho's whereabouts. So he personally drove the lady to the nursing home, but unexpectedly, the bed was already empty. The caregiver said the patient had been picked up by family members. This left the lady and Officer Huang extremely puzzled. The person who transferred Yanho was Cheon Tae-hwa. When Officer Huang went to find the lady, Cheon Tae-hwa happened to see the scene. Worried that Officer Huang would discover her crime through Yanho, she sent people to pose as Yanho's family members and secretly took Yanho out of the nursing home. Originally she wanted to order Yanho to be buried alive, but when her subordinates were about to act, Cheon Tae-hwa changed her mind. She thought that instead of taking on another life, it would be better to keep the vegetative Yanho by her side to use as leverage against the lady later. Meanwhile, when the lady learned that Isong had suddenly fallen ill and was hospitalized, she also rushed over in panic. Now both mother-in-law and daughter-in-law had suffered huge blows. Hyunsu reluctantly told the lady that she had decided to give up her feelings for Dojin. At the same time, she also decided to sever her relationship with her mother-in-law. Since Yanho had been dead for so many years, they couldn't really be considered mother-in-law and daughter-in-law anymore. Now she just wanted to live a peaceful life with her child. Originally the mother-in-law wanted to tell her daughter-in-law that Yanho was still alive. At this moment, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Dojin was also hiding nearby, overhearing Hyunsu's thoughts. He couldn't bear to continue letting Hyunsu suffer because of him, so he decided to give up this relationship. Then, to prevent his mother from continuing to retaliate against Hyunsu, Dojin decided to have a good talk with his mother. Learning that her son was coming scared Cheon Tae-hwa to death, because she had hidden Yanho in her house. If Dojin saw him, everything would be over. Cheon Tae-hwa hurriedly tried to transfer Yanho. Unexpectedly, she ran into her son Sungjin at the elevator entrance. With Sungjin's help, they successfully transferred Yanho. Cheon Tae-hwa thought everything had been concealed. Little did she know that the police had found surveillance footage from the day Yanho disappeared. Although the surveillance footage couldn't clearly show the person's true face, Officer Huang still guessed from the behavior that the person in the video was Cheon Tae-hwa. To verify his guess, Officer Huang deliberately went to the house to test Cheon Tae-hwa. He said he had already taken the lady and the patient's biological information for a paternity test. Today they would know whether the person lying in the nursing home was Yanho or not. Cheon Tae-hwa was extremely panicked after hearing this. Just then, Sungjin suddenly called. Cheon Tae-hwa pretended to hang up the phone, but actually let Sungjin also listen to her conversation with the police. Only then did Sungjin learn that the vegetative person was Yanho, and once Yanho's identity was exposed, he and Cheon Tae-hwa would be finished. Learning that the paternity test was about to be delivered to the house, Sungjin immediately turned around and went home. He rushed and finally stopped the delivery person. Just as Sungjin was breathing a sigh of relief, unexpectedly his brother Dojin saw the scene. Sungjin was so scared that he dropped the report on the ground. Dojin picked up the report. Seeing the recipient was his stepmother, he handed the report to her. After learning that the lady might have found Yanho, Sayla instantly thought this was a good opportunity to separate Hyunsu and Dojin. She immediately told Hyunsu about this. Sure enough, as soon as Hyunsu heard, she immediately rushed to the lady's house. But when they saw the results, all the hopes of both mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were still empty. They never expected that the paternity report would show no match. On the other side, Officer Huang's appearance made Cheon Tae-hwa extremely uneasy. To prevent her affairs from being exposed, Cheon Tae-hwa directly and ruthlessly pulled off Yanho's oxygen mask. After some struggle, Yanho stopped breathing. But just when Cheon Tae-hwa thought Yanho had died, unexpectedly Yanho miraculously recovered his heartbeat and slowly opened his eyes. Cheon Tae-hwa was nearly scared to death. But who could have imagined that Yanho had lost his memory due to brain injury? To find out whether Yanho was faking, Cheon Tae-hwa even called a doctor to examine Yanho. After discovering that Yanho had truly lost his memory, Cheon Tae-hwa's anxious heart finally settled down. After this series of events, Sungjin had guessed that his mother was hiding something from him. Under Sungjin's interrogation, Cheon Tae-hwa had to tell the truth. It turned out Sungjin was the child of Cheon Tae-hwa and her boyfriend Kim Chul-yong. But the boyfriend used Sungjin's background to threaten Cheon Tae-hwa for 1 billion won. Otherwise, he would go tell the chairman about their affair. This made Cheon Tae-hwa want to kill her boyfriend. So she pretended to commit suicide by running into the sea. Then, taking advantage of Kim Chul-yong trying to save her, she pushed him into the sea. Kim Chul-yong was silenced by her just like that, and Yanho was the witness. Cheon Tae-hwa said she did all this to keep Sungjin's identity secret. After hearing this, Sungjin was devastated. He really couldn't accept that his biological father was such a person. But things had come to this point, and he could only choose to stand with his mother. Now the biggest problem they faced was Yanho. During his time at the nursing home, Yanho had existed under the identity of Lee Woo-jin. So Cheon Tae-hwa deceived Yanho, saying he was an orphan. Cheon Tae-hwa was Yanho's adoptive mother, and Sungjin was his brother. The amnesiac Yanho believed this and treated Cheon Tae-hwa as his closest person. He did rehabilitation training seriously at the rehabilitation center every day. Cheon Tae-hwa also put on a good show. She not only came to the rehabilitation center every day to visit Yanho but also pushed his wheelchair daily to take him outdoors for fresh air. She looked completely like a qualified stepmother. To better monitor Yanho, Cheon Tae-hwa also brought him back to her apartment to settle down. Meanwhile, Officer Huang had been investigating Yanho's kidnapping case. To catch the culprit, he deliberately spread news that he was going to restore the surveillance footage from the day Yanho was kidnapped. After learning this, Cheon Tae-hwa hurriedly arranged for her subordinates to take away the surveillance files using Officer Huang's identity. Then Officer Huang took the opportunity to drive and follow them. But halfway the car suddenly broke down. Seeing he was about to lose them, Officer Huang was very anxious. At that moment, Dojin happened to pass by and offered to give Officer Huang a ride. Officer Huang knew Dojin was Cheon Tae-hwa's son. Dojin appearing at this time made Officer Huang feel somewhat suspicious. But to catch up with the vehicle, he had no choice but to agree. Cheon Tae-hwa couldn't wait to open the file after getting it. But a tracking device fell out of the file. At that moment, Officer Huang also arrived at the scene. Only then did Cheontae realize she had fallen into Officer Huang's trap. She quickly had her subordinates block the police while she took advantage of the chaos to escape. While Officer Huang was fighting with the thugs, Dojin waiting downstairs was very worried. At this moment, he didn't know that the person the police wanted to catch was his own mother. He immediately called the police and decided to go upstairs to help, worried about Officer Huang and the others being in danger. But at the corner, he heard footsteps. Dojin quickly turned on his flashlight to check. Hiding behind was Cheontae. Just as mother and son were about to meet this way, at the critical moment, Dojin was suddenly struck by a club. He fell to the ground unconscious. Hearing Dojin scream, Cheontae realized it was her younger son. Sungjin, who came to support his mother, was also shocked by this scene. They never expected the person they hit was their own brother. Cheontae wanted to send Dojin to the hospital, but at that moment, police sirens blared downstairs. To avoid being caught by the police, Cheontae and Sungjin could only leave Dojin behind. Because Dojin wasn't sent to the hospital in time for treatment, his brain nerves were damaged, causing temporary blindness. His son suddenly encountering such a thing devastated the chairman. Cheontae pushed all the blame onto the lady. She said Dojin had the accident because he was helping the lady find her son Yanho. She made a big fuss about kicking the lady out. All of this was Cheontae's scheme. After leaving the hospital room, Cheontae's face changed instantly. She wanted the lady to feel guilty and not dare face Dojin. The lady felt extremely guilty about this, although Hyunsu had already drawn a clear line with Dojin. When she learned Dojin was injured, she couldn't help but run to the hospital to visit. But as soon as she entered the room, she began to retreat because she felt she had no right. She could only quickly flee the scene. Dojin discovered it was Hyunsu and hurriedly chased after her. Even though his eyes couldn't see, his footsteps didn't stop. Seeing Dojin fall to the ground for her sake, Hyunsu finally softened. She quickly came to Dojin's side. Soon after, Yanho recovered his ability to walk. Cheontae worried that the police and the lady would discover Yanho's whereabouts, thus exposing his identity. So she deceived Yanho, saying he was a fugitive wanted by the police. The reason he became a vegetative patient was because he got into a car accident during a hit and run. So Cheontae hoped Yanho would obediently stay home and not go out. After the police closed the case, he could show his face. After hearing Cheontae's words, Yanho was convinced he was a fugitive. The next day, he went to the police station entrance to turn himself in, but after an internal struggle, he still didn't have the courage to walk in. So Yanho went to the nursing home where he had stayed before to retrieve his lost memories, but the caregiver said he had been kidnapped some time ago. She also gave Yanho a business card that Dojin had left when looking for him. The caregiver told Yanho to find Dojin, but as soon as Yanho arrived at the company following the address on the card, the subordinates Cheontae had arranged to monitor him chased after him. Yanho mistook them for the people who had kidnapped him, so he quickly ran away, but he accidentally bumped into Hyunsu. When Hyunsu picked up her bag, she discovered her ex-husband had just run past her. At that moment, Hyunsu couldn't believe it and chased out looking for him. She sadly called out her husband's name. Yanho hiding nearby didn't know the woman before him was his wife. He just stared blankly at the scene. Exhausted, Yanho finally made it home, but he discovered the men in black who had just chased him were also in the house. Yanho was instantly scared. Cheontae quickly lied, saying these were bodyguards she had sent to protect Yanho. After hearing this, Yanho's mind was in complete chaos. That night, Yanho had nightmares. In the dream, he called another person dad. The piercing pain woke him from the nightmare. Strangely, the dad in the dream didn't look the same as the dad in the photo Cheontae had given him. He asked Cheontae what was going on. Cheontae lied that Yanho had been amnesiac too long, so his memories were confused. She took Yanho to the hospital for examination. To Cheontae's surprise, the doctor actually diagnosed Yanho with Alzheimer's disease. After learning this, Yanho felt hopeless. This result meant Cheontae no longer had to worry about Yanho recovering his memory. Meanwhile, after a month of treatment at the hospital, Dojin's eyes finally recovered to normal vision. When he opened his eyes, the first person he saw was the girl he loved. He felt very comforted. Learning that Dojin and Hyunsu were together again made Sayla furious. Angry, she came before Hyunsu to lose her temper. Just as Sayla was venting her anger at Hyunsu, Hyunsu received a call from the chairman. Because Hyunsu's previous designs had won the company a major international client, the chairman asked her to return to work at the company. Hearing this, Sayla was furious. Just like that, Hyunsu returned to work at the company as a formal employee the next day. Seeing the person she hated appear before her again made Sayla very upset. What made her even angrier was that Hyunsu's position was actually higher than hers. So Sayla immediately told Cheontae about this. Naturally, Cheontae didn't want Hyunsu getting close to her son, so she came to the company to question why the chairman did this. She even scolded Hyunsu for having the nerve to come back to work. Unexpectedly, this time the chairman defended Hyunsu throughout. Unable to control the chairman's thinking, Cheontae was helpless. Since Hyunsu came back to work, Sayla's days haven't been good. Now the whole company was gossiping about her being a liar. She wasn't Dojin's marriage partner but had deceived everyone. Listening to colleagues' sneers behind her back, Sayla completely lost it at that moment. So she took all her anger out on Hyunsu. She inexplicably cut off Hyunsu's long hair. Seeing her classmate being so despicable, Hyunsu finally saw her true face. Soon after, Sayla learned from her mother that the son the lady was looking for looked very similar to Lee Woo-jin from the nursing home. Sayla instantly suspected they might be the same person. So Sayla immediately went to the nursing home to investigate the surveillance footage. Surprisingly, the lady also happened to rush over at that time. They came there for the same purpose, both to find the kidnapped Lee Woo-jin. But when the nursing home surveillance footage was opened, everyone saw Yanho passing by the entrance. At that moment, everyone present believed Lee Woo-jin was Yanho. To completely dispel everyone's thoughts, Cheontae bribed a police officer. She had the officer tell the lady that Yanho had been found, but Yanho had already died. At that moment, the lady was utterly desperate. Although they could no longer conduct any tests, the matching couple bracelet was enough to prove the deceased was Yanho. Meanwhile, not far away, Yanho was meeting fake relatives under Cheon Taewa's deception. The lady saw that face that looked just like her son and couldn't help but want to approach, but she was stopped by the police, who said it was inconvenient to get close. At that moment, Cheon Taewa was quietly observing them from a distance. On the other side, since learning he had Alzheimer's disease, Yanho desperately wanted to recover his lost memories before the condition worsened. Learning this, Cheon Taewa tried everything to prevent Yanho from recovering his memory, but Cheon Taewa calculated everything except that she would personally reveal the truth. She thought Yanho had fallen asleep after taking sedatives, so she discussed with Sungjin how to prevent Yanho from finding Hyunsu. She felt fortunate that Yanho had Alzheimer's and would slowly forget everything. Just as mother and son were talking enthusiastically, Yanho overheard their conversation. He couldn't believe it and questioned Cheon Taewa about who they really were. Why wasn't his name Lee Woo-jin but Han Yanho? Seeing this, Sungjin still tried to deceive him, using Yanho's Alzheimer's as an excuse, but at that moment, Yanho no longer believed a single word they said. Seeing things had been exposed, Cheon Taewa stopped pretending. She directly ordered her subordinates to lock Yanho in a mental hospital. Seeing he was about to be finished, in desperation, Yanho pretended to be sick and lay on the ground convulsing. The subordinates were so scared they quickly went to notify Sungjin, but when they returned to the ward, they found Yanho had quietly escaped when no one was watching. Learning that Yanho had escaped from the mental hospital, Cheon Taewa panicked. Sungjin even blamed his mother for dragging him into this. He could have had a beautiful future. It was his mother who forcibly pulled him into it. Hearing her son's complaints, Cheon Taewa finally felt afraid. She imagined herself being arrested and thrown in jail. At that time, calling out to heaven and earth would be useless. How miserable that would be. Cheon Taewa's subordinates immediately pursued Yanho. Just as Yanho was about to fall into Cheon Taewa's clutches, a man saved him. The man's name was Kim Suk-hoon. He was the son of Cheon Taewa's lover Kim Chul-young. Kim Suk-hoon saved Yanho because he wanted Yanho to recover his memory and help him take revenge on Cheon Taewa. Then Kim Suk-hoon told Yanho that the boat accident Yanho and his father encountered was orchestrated by Cheon Taewa. To help Yanho recover his memory, Kim Suk-hoon gave Yanho all of his information. He also told Yanho that the woman he had encountered before was his wife Hyunsu. But at that moment, Yanho had completely lost his memory. All of this was incredibly unfamiliar to him. He really couldn't believe everything Kim Suk-hoon told him. Then Yanho unknowingly walked to the park. Meanwhile, after learning from the lady that Yanho could never come back, Hyunsu decided to completely say goodbye to the past and start a new life. Dojin also formally proposed to Hyunsu. Having made up her mind, Hyunsu accepted Dojin's proposal. At that moment, Yanho was watching them from a distance. Seeing the two of them passionately kissing, Yanho's heart was filled with mixed emotions. 7 years had completely changed his life. His mother had remarried. Now even his wife had run off with someone else. The person responsible for all this was Cheon Taewa. Kim Suk-hoon and he shared a common enemy. So Yanho decided to team up with Kim Suk-hoon for revenge. To find evidence, Yanho decided to continue using Lee Woo-jin's identity to stay close to Cheon Taewa. Yanho knew Cheon Taewa had been having him followed, so he deliberately returned to the nursing home. Sure enough, the men in black seized the opportunity to tackle Yanho to the ground. When Yanho's head hit the ground, by chance it caused him to recover his memory. The scenes of him and Hyunsu falling in love appeared before his eyes again. Meanwhile, the chairman agreed to Dojin and Hyunsu's marriage. Soon both families arranged to meet. After learning about this, Sayla stayed in bed crying for a month. She even called Hyunsu over, demanding she cancel the wedding. Otherwise, she would jump from the building. She climbed to the rooftop trying to threaten Hyunsu into letting go. Awkwardly, Hyunsu wasn't buying it at all. She walked away without looking back. Sayla instantly became a joke. When Cheon Taewa learned the chairman had agreed to his son's marriage, she went to her ex-husband's house again to cause a scene. But the chairman directly called the police and had her dragged out. Soon it was the day of Hyunsu and Dojin's wedding. To stop his wife from marrying someone else, Yanho, with his memory restored, ran frantically to the wedding venue. But Kim Suk-hoon stopped him in his tracks. Kim Suk-hoon told Yanho that even if he burst in, it wouldn't mean anything. After all, during the 7 years he'd been declared dead, everyone's lives had changed. His sudden appearance would only make everyone unhappy. More importantly, Yanho had Alzheimer's disease. He wouldn't be able to make Hyunsu happy anymore in the future. Hearing these cruel words made Yanho extremely emotional, but ultimately he still chose to let Hyunsu be happy. After composing himself, the only thing Yanho needed to do now was make Cheon Taewa pay the price. Then Yanho voluntarily returned to Cheon Taewa's house. Seeing him, Cheon Taewa was so scared she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how much memory Yanho had recovered. After hearing Yanho say he remembered nothing, Cheon Taewa finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang. Yanho got up to answer the door. It turned out to be the lady at the door. Cheon Taewa was so scared she immediately grabbed Yanho. She refused to let him open the door no matter what. But then the fire alarm suddenly went off. Scared, Cheon Taewa pushed Yanho aside and ran away. She completely forgot she was playing the role of Yanho's adoptive mother. But she didn't expect the lady to be blocking the doorway. It turned out the lady had deliberately set off the fire alarm. She wanted to force Cheon Taewa out. The lady came to warn Cheon Taewa not to trouble Hyunsu anymore. But before she could finish speaking, she actually saw Yanho run out from inside the house. At that moment, the lady couldn't believe her eyes. But when she called out her son's name, Yanho, not wanting to expose himself, acted like a stranger. He introduced himself as Lee Woo-jin. The lady was certain the man before her was her son. Afraid Woo-jin would recover his memory, Cheon Taewa tried to chase the lady away, but she was pushed to the ground by the lady. Yanho quickly called Cheon Taewa mom while helping her up. The lady didn't understand what was happening. Yanho was clearly her son. Why was he calling Cheon Taewa mom? The lady frantically pounded on the door, wanting to see her son. Unexpectedly, she was driven out of the apartment on the spot by security called by Cheon Taewa. The lady didn't understand why her son was living with Cheon Taewa. Just as she was feeling more and more desperate, Yanho suddenly rushed out and hugged her. A single mom shocked the lady. lady. After 7 years, mother and son finally met. The lady's longing was beyond words. Looking at her son's gaunt face, she grabbed his hand, ready to take him home for a good meal. But Yanho didn't plan to go home with his mother. His father's death was related to Cheon Tae-hwa. He wanted to stay by Cheon Tae-hwa's side to collect evidence and avenge his deceased father. The lady was very opposed to Yanho doing this, but Yanho said Hyunsoo had now remarried and was living happily. His appearance would only make everyone unhappy. The lady's heart was filled with mixed emotions. Then Yanho returned to Cheon Tae-hwa's house. To dispel Cheon Tae-hwa and Sungjin's suspicions, Yanho even deliberately brought back 2 medicated patches. He said he had just rushed out to buy medicine for Cheon Tae-hwa. Soon after, Yanho encountered a little boy on the street. The boy called him dad right away. Yanho thought the child had the wrong person and didn't take it to heart. However, his mother told Yanho that the child was his biological son. Yanho desperately went to the kindergarten, wanting to hug his son. But his son ran into Dojin's arms, calling him dad. Afraid of exposing his identity, Yanho turned and left. Hyunsoo looked at Yanho's retreating figure and felt it was very familiar. At that moment, Yanho regretted not stopping the wedding that day. Now he could only watch them leave. As the car drove away, Yanho still couldn't help but chase after it. That was his wife and child. Now they were all leaving him. The happy family of 3 in the car didn't notice Yanho running frantically. When he got home, Yanho beat up Kim Suk-hoon. If it weren't for Kim Suk-hoon, he would have stopped that wedding long ago. If he had known about his son's existence, how could he have watched his wife marry someone else? But Kim Suk-hoon believed that Yanho not only had Alzheimer's but also had to avenge his father. His current physical condition couldn't give Hyunsoo and her son happiness anymore. Kim Suk-hoon's words once again pierced Yanho's heart. Walking down the street in despair, he was spotted by Sayla. Sayla couldn't believe that the man she once secretly loved hadn't died. She quickly stopped Yanho, but Yanho impatiently shook off her hand. He said he was very annoyed when others mistook him for someone else. He solemnly introduced himself as Lee Woo-jin. Hearing this, Sayla froze on the spot. To verify whether Lee Woo-jin was Yanho, Sayla hired a private investigator to help investigate. But after the private investigator's inquiries, they couldn't find any information about Woo-jin. At that moment, Sayla felt more and more suspicious, so she immediately found the clothes whose sleeve Woo-jin had touched that day. She decided to take Woo-jin's bloodstains and the lady's hair for a paternity test. Then Sayla's mother came to the lady's house under the pretext of looking for her. Learning the lady wasn't home, she took the opportunity to sneak into the lady's room and began collecting her hair. Then Sayla deliberately told Hyunsoo that Yanho was still alive. She hoped Hyunsoo would go see poor Yanho. After hearing this, Hyunsoo completely didn't believe her words. She said even if Yanho came back alive now, nothing would change. These words were overheard by the lady. At that moment, the lady finally understood that her son Yanho's choice not to return to the family was right. Although Hyunsoo said she no longer cared about Yanho, she still couldn't help but follow Sayla to see how similar Woo-jin looked to her ex-husband. At that time, Yanho was thinking about how to get rid of Cheon Tae-hwa's surveillance. Just then, Sayla called out his name from behind. At that moment, Hyunsoo couldn't believe her eyes. She thought she had already let go of Yanho, but when she saw Woo-jin, who looked exactly like Yanho, her heart still ached. Hyunsoo couldn't control her inner impulse and wanted to go forward, but Dojin grabbed her. This scene was equally hard for Yanho to bear, but he could only cruelly tell Hyunsoo she had the wrong person. He told them not to bother him anymore. However, after he turned and left, tears poured out uncontrollably. To see her son every day, the lady proposed adopting Woo-jin as her godson, using the excuse that he looked like her son. Because this reason was flawless, Cheon Tae-hwa could only agree. To keep the truth from being exposed, she could only have Sungjin speed up the process of seizing the company. Soon after, Sayla got the paternity report for the lady and Yanho, so she immediately prepared to deliver it to the chairman. But on the way there, she accidentally witnessed Yanho calling the lady mom. This further confirmed Sayla's suspicion, so she showed off the test report in her hand in front of the mother and son. She arrogantly said she would give this thing to the chairman. With that, she ran to the chairman's office with the paternity report. Yanho didn't want the truth to be revealed and desperately rushed forward to stop her, but Sayla still got away. On the way, Sayla also ran into Hyunsoo. To make Hyunsoo lose face in front of the chairman, Sayla forcibly dragged Hyunsoo into the chairman's office. By coincidence, Cheon Tae-hwa was also there. Sayla excitedly locked the door. Then she was about to open the test report in front of the chairman. Seeing this, Cheon Tae-hwa was so scared she almost wet herself. She quickly rushed forward to try to snatch the report. Of course, Sayla was no pushover either. The conference room instantly became a battlefield. Cheon Tae-hwa was pushed to the ground by Sayla. The chairman was scared seeing this. Sayla confidently opened the report, but when she opened it, she was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, the paternity report showed that Woo-jin and the lady were not mother and son. This result satisfied everyone. After all, no one wanted the truth to be exposed. Because of her recklessness, Sayla could only kneel before the chairman begging for forgiveness. The reason the test result was wrong was because Sungjin had switched the test report long ago. Afterward, Sayla's father was very angry. He felt that since Dojin was already married, she shouldn't keep thinking about him. If she couldn't forget, she should go live in America. Just like that, father and daughter had a big fight over this. Angry, Sayla went to a bar to get drunk, but she accidentally called Sungjin to keep her company. After Sungjin sent the drunk Sayla to the hotel, he wanted to leave, but he heard Sayla crying. Seeing this, Sungjin felt compassion. He could only use a hug to give Sayla some comfort. The next day when Sayla woke up, she found herself wearing only pajamas. What made her even more shocked was that there was a man lying in the room. Seeing this, Sayla let out a scream. Sungjin, woken by the noise, told Sayla that nothing happened between them last night. Even so, Sayla still felt very embarrassed. She quickly packed her things to leave, but as soon as they walked out of the hotel, they unexpectedly ran into the Hyunsoo couple. Sayla instinctively wanted to explain, but Sungjin took the opportunity to grab Sayla's hand. He said they had slept at the hotel last night. As soon as he finished speaking, Sayla's father happened to hear this. Her father was so angry he immediately wanted to beat up Sungjin. The scene became extremely chaotic. chaotic. After calming down, Sayla desperately explained that it was all a misunderstanding. When Sayla's mother learned about this, she was secretly delighted. At this time, Sungjin took the opportunity to propose that he wanted to officially pursue Sayla. His purpose for doing this was to get Sayla's father's company shares. If they married, he would become the largest shareholder of the company at that time. But Sayla didn't want to have any relationship with Sungjin. No matter how her mother persuaded her, she just didn't want to date Sungjin. With no other option, Sayla's mother had to disguise herself as a cleaning lady to go to the company and spread gossip. She publicized everywhere that her daughter and Sungjin had slept in a hotel. She said both families were already planning the wedding. The rumors about Sayla and Sungjin caused a huge uproar in the company. The chairman was very angry when he learned about it. Sungjin took the opportunity to ask his father to agree to this marriage. He said his marriage to Sayla would only have benefits, no drawbacks. When Dojin and the lady learned about it, they were the first to stand up against it. They believed Sayla and Sungjin's marriage was just a transaction and definitely wouldn't last long. But at this time, Sungjin had made up his mind and no one could persuade him. Because Sayla didn't want to marry Sungjin, she refused to go out every day in anger. Her mother advised her not to reject this marriage. After all, marrying into the family would make her the eldest daughter-in-law of a wealthy household. More importantly, even Hyunsoo would have to respectfully call her sister-in-law in the future. When Sayla heard she could upset Hyunsoo, she began to change her mind. Because the rumors about Sungjin and Sayla kept getting bigger, the chairman ultimately had no choice but to agree to their marriage. When Sayla's mother learned about this, she was extremely happy. She wanted to celebrate the victory with Cheon Tae-hwa, but she unexpectedly heard a recording about Sungjin's background. Only then did she realize Sungjin wasn't actually the chairman's biological son. This shocking news devastated Sayla's mother. After all, she had persuaded her daughter so hard to agree to this marriage. Now her daughter was going to marry a fake young master. How could their family handle this? Sayla's mother angrily cursed out Cheon Tae-hwa, but Cheon Tae-hwa warned her not to make a fuss. Otherwise, not only would the marriage be ruined, but she would also make Sayla's mother suffer the consequences. At the same time, she also reassured Sayla's mother. She said as long as no one else knew about this, Sayla would still be the eldest daughter-in-law of a wealthy family. Things had come to this point, so Sayla's mother had no choice but to compromise. Then Cheon Tae-hwa began investigating who was working against her behind the scenes. She finally discovered it was Director Nam, the hitman she had sent to deal with Yanho. Because of gambling debts, Director Nam owed a huge amount of money. So he wanted to get some money from Cheon Tae-hwa. He used Cheon Tae-hwa's crime video to threaten her for 1 billion won. Where could Cheon Tae-hwa get so much money? She could only give him half first. But the cunning Director Nam only gave half the evidence. That was the video of Sungjin's background. The other criminal evidence was still in Director Nam's hands. At the same time, Yanho also discovered that Director Nam was the man who had bumped into him when they boarded the boat. This meant the boat accident they encountered was also related to Director Nam. Cheon Tae-hwa's subordinates found Director Nam first. Realizing the danger, Director Nam ran away. But he was saved by Kim Suk-hoon. Kim Suk-hoon revealed his identity. He was the son of Cheon Tae-hwa's boyfriend. Kim Suk-hoon only wanted to get the evidence, but for Director Nam, of course he would give it to whoever paid more. Kim Suk-hoon took out Yunho's photo. Director Nam recognized at a glance that this was the victim of the boat accident he had engineered. His expression instantly became tense. Kim Suk-hoon threatened that if he didn't cooperate, he would expose the boat accident. To confirm with his own eyes that Yunho was still alive, Director Nam found Yanho. Yunho also pretended not to know him. Hearing he was Cheon Tae-hwa's friend, he brought him home. As soon as Cheon Tae-hwa saw Director Nam, she broke out in a cold sweat. Director Nam took the opportunity to remind Cheon Tae-hwa to prepare the money quickly. Seeing Cheon Tae-hwa so nervous, Yunho reminded her that this Director Nam was a bit strange. After hearing this, Cheon Tae-hwa was very surprised. She had never mentioned Director Nam's name. Nervously, she immediately rushed into Yunho's room to question him. But Yunho said Director Nam had introduced himself. Cheon Tae-hwa suddenly felt awkward. After making an excuse to send Yunho away, she began looking through Yunho's call records, but she didn't know the password. Then Yunho suddenly appeared behind her. Cheon Tae-hwa was nearly scared to death. She hurriedly explained she couldn't find her phone and wanted to call it to try. Yunho immediately dialed her number, but the phone ringtone came from Cheon Tae-hwa's pocket. Yunho knew Cheon Tae-hwa had begun to suspect him, but he still played dumb with her. On the other side, since the chairman agreed to Sungjin and Sayla's marriage, Sungjin would occasionally go to Sayla's house to please her parents. Unexpectedly, while drinking with his future father-in-law that day, he accidentally learned that Sayla's father had long ago cashed out and squandered all his company shares. Their family had no company shares at all now. When Cheon Tae-hwa learned about this, she immediately found Sayla's mother and flew into a rage. After all, Sungjin wanted to marry Sayla because of her father's shares. Now they discovered their family had no value at all. After hearing this, Sayla's mother was also full of anger. She accused Sungjin of being just a fake young master. She threatened that if Cheon Tae-hwa continued to disrespect her, she would go tell the chairman that Sungjin wasn't his biological son. But she never expected the chairman was standing right behind them. Learning the truth, the chairman fainted on the spot. After being sent to the hospital and resuscitated, there was no life-threatening danger. He just remained unconscious for a while. Because the chairman fainted and was hospitalized, Sungjin took the opportunity to become the company's acting director. However, on his first day in office, news that he was a fake son spread throughout the company. This made Sungjin very anxious. Soon the chairman regained consciousness. Afraid the chairman would learn about his background, Sungjin hurriedly rushed to the hospital. But as soon as he entered the room, he saw his father whispering something in his brother's ear. At that moment, Sungjin felt extremely guilty. Actually, Dojin hadn't heard the truth about the fainting from his father. The chairman only told Dojin not to blame his brother Sungjin. But the chairman's words immediately made Dojin realize the fainting must be related to his brother. Soon after, when Dojin was helping Hyunsoo organize Yunho's belongings, he accidentally saw that Yunho had once entered the group's design competition 7 years ago. Seeing the familiar villa, He realized the design Sungjin had plagiarized was actually Yanho's, so he suspected the reason his father fainted was because of Sungjin's plagiarism. Dojin also knew about this back then but chose to help his brother cover it up. At this moment, Dojin regretted it deeply. He decided to reveal everything. Sungjin had worked so hard to get to where he was today. Unwilling to let everything he had obtained be ruined, he even knelt down to apologize to Dojin and tried to stop him. But Dojin wasn't the same person he was 7 years ago. Dojin explained everything to Yanho's family. This surprised everyone. Hyunsu also began to resent him. This made Dojin feel even more guilty. Dojin originally planned to announce his brother's plagiarism early in the morning, but Sungjin beat him to it. Sungjin took the initiative to hold a press conference. Dojin thought he was admitting his mistakes, but Sungjin was making excuses for himself in every word. He pushed all the blame onto the person in charge back then. This appearance made Yanho very angry, so the next second, news about Sungjin's background appeared on the screen. To prove the news was reliable, they even included a recording. At that moment, everyone was stunned. Cheon Tae-hwa was so scared she didn't care about her image and hurriedly knocked over the camera. This guilty behavior was also broadcast live throughout the venue. However, when people came to question her, Cheon Tae-hwa insisted the recording was fake. She said this was the lady slandering her. Her reasonable arguments successfully shifted the focus. In this way, the heat of the plagiarism dropped sharply. Instead, the secret of Sungjin's background topped the trending searches. Facing the chairman, Cheon Tae-hwa firmly insisted that Sungjin was the chairman's biological son. She vowed to handle this matter properly. The chairman just looked at Sungjin with heartache. After all, he had raised his son for 30 years. He no longer cared about blood relations. To get rid of Director Nam, Sungjin decided to make a deal with him. This was also Yanho's good opportunity to catch them all in one net. After Sungjin got the evidence USB drive, he didn't even look at it before throwing it into the river. Director Nam immediately realized Sungjin hadn't come today to eliminate evidence. He came to eliminate him. Yanho couldn't sit and wait any longer. He hurriedly rushed over to stop them. He pretended to run into them by chance and greeted Sungjin. Director Nam took the opportunity to escape. When Sungjin tried to chase after him, Yanho stopped him. His subordinates broke free from Yanho to chase after him. Sungjin angrily questioned why Yanho was there. At that time, Kim Suk-hoon's voice came from behind. They lied that they came here to talk business. When Yanho asked Sungjin in return, Sungjin didn't know how to explain. Director Nam was also enraged by Sungjin and his group's behavior. He decided to cooperate with Yanho and the others to take down Cheon Tae-hwa. On the other side, when Hyunsu was crossing the street, she was almost hit by a car. Fortunately, Yanho pulled her away in time, preventing an accident. This moment made Hyunsu feel somewhat dazed. She smelled an incredibly familiar body odor. That was a scent unique only to her ex-husband. She stared at the face before her that was both strange and familiar, standing there frozen. Yunho's heart was also very unsettled after urgently calling out Hyunsu's name. To avoid exposing his identity, Yunho quickly made an excuse and hurried away. This accident made Hyunsu begin to suspect that Woo Jin was her husband Yunho, so she went to the police station to verify Woo Jin's identity. However, she discovered that the real Woo Jin didn't look like Yunho at all. This was enough to prove that Yunho was impersonating Woo Jin's identity. When Hyunsu confronted the lady with the photo, the lady didn't know how to explain this matter. Just as the lady was in a difficult position, Yunho also appeared at the restaurant. It turned out Hyunsu, to figure out Yunho's identity, had deliberately called both mother and son over. The moment their eyes met again, Hyunsu could no longer suppress her longing for Yunho in her heart. Without hesitation, she hugged Yunho. Hyunsu firmly believed the Yunho before her was her husband who had died 7 years ago. Although Yunho was extremely moved, he cruelly pushed away Hyunsu's embrace. He said Hyunsu had the wrong person and turned to leave. Hyunsu followed closely behind, asking Yunho why he wouldn't admit his identity. Why, when he had clearly come back, didn't he come find her? At that moment, Yunho stopped pretending. He questioned Hyunsu, who would be happy if he came back. He had already been declared dead 7 years ago. Now everyone was living happily. Who still remembered him? Even if he came back alive now, their former marriage had already ended. So Yunho begged Hyunsu to treat him as a dead person from now on. Forgetting him was the best choice. With that, he left without looking back. Afterward, Hyunsu also began to blame herself. Shouldn't she have married Dojin back then? Just as Hyunsu was wavering between Yunho and Dojin, she accidentally learned that Cheon Tae-hwa was the mastermind behind the boat accident that killed her former father-in-law. Before Hyunsu could recover, Officer Hwang also discovered that Cheon Tae-hwa was a hit-and-run driver in a car accident. The man who was killed was Hyunsu's father. Hyunsu's mother was a witness to that accident. After learning this, Hyunsu was devastated. She never expected she had married her enemy's son. What made it even harder for her to accept was that Dojin had known about the car accident not long ago. But Dojin chose to hide it from her. Soon, Hyunsu's family members all learned about these things. Dojin knew he couldn't make up for the crimes his mother had committed. He could only kneel down and apologize on his mother's behalf. But Hyunsu's family could no longer accept such a person as their son-in-law. Grandmother was so emotional she drove Dojin away. She was determined to have Hyunsu divorce Dojin. Because of this, Hyunsu began to struggle. After all, she truly loved Dojin, and her hatred was also real. At the same time, Yunho and Kim Suk-hoon also began their revenge plan. They leaked the news of Cheon Tae-hwa's hit-and-run to the media. They also exposed the fact that Sungjin wasn't the chairman's biological son. All the major media instantly exploded. Because of this, Cheon Tae-hwa was surrounded by reporters scrambling for interviews. Because the chairman had been in poor health, the group prepared to have the lady serve as acting chairman. To help Sungjin seize the chairman position at the group, Cheon Tae-hwa deliberately told the lady that Yunho had Alzheimer's disease. After learning this, the lady had difficulty accepting it and fainted on the spot. Yunho stopped pretending and directly called out, "Mom." At that moment, Dojin learned that Woo Jin was actually Yunho. Cheon Tae-hwa also finally realized Yunho had recovered his memory. Learning her ex-husband had a terminal illness, Hyunsu was heartbroken. She also finally understood why Yunho refused to acknowledge her. her. News of Cheon Tae-hwa going to the company in style to attend the shareholders meeting soon appeared on TV. Seeing her enemy showing off, grandmother was so angry she jumped up and down. She directly rushed to the shareholders meeting and beat up Cheon Tae-hwa. Because of grandmother's disturbance, the shareholders meeting had to be suspended. Through Hyunsu's grandmother, the chairman finally learned what bad things Cheon Tae-hwa had done. He never expected this woman to be so vicious. After the meeting resumed, the lady successfully became acting chairman. Sungjin was dismissed from his position by the board members because of the plagiarism incident. Everything Cheon Tae-hwa had worked so hard for was destroyed in an instant. She wanted to vent her anger on the lady, but the police suddenly arrived. They directly arrested Cheon Tae-hwa on murder charges. Yanho also admitted his identity in front of everyone. He made all of Cheon Tae-hwa's crimes over the years public. Just like that, Cheon Tae-hwa was directly arrested by police at the shareholders meeting. After arriving at the detention center, Cheon Tae-hwa, used to being arrogant, remained arrogant. She still bossed around her cellmates. The cellmates immediately beat her up to teach her a lesson. Cheon Tae-hwa was beaten so badly she was hospitalized. Seeing everything had finally ended, Yanho finally returned to his original position. When Hyunsu's family saw Yanho again, their hearts were filled with mixed emotions. Grandmother felt heartbroken seeing Yanho suffering. She regretted even more letting Hyunsu marry Dojin, which prevented Yanho from coming home for so long. Standing outside the door, Dojin heard their words and felt very uncomfortable. To this family, he was a sinner. Looking back at past happy moments now seemed so ironic. Hyunsu finally proposed divorce. Dojin wanted to try to keep her but didn't know in what capacity. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa had escaped from the prison hospital. Then Dojin received a call from Cheon Tae-hwa. Desperate, Cheon Tae-hwa begged her son for help. Hyunsu asked who had called. Now Dojin faced a difficult choice. On one side was his wife, on the other his mother. Ultimately he still chose to cover for his mother. Dojin hurried to meet his mother, but she remained stubborn, asking Dojin to help her flee to America. Just as Dojin was about to persuade his mother to turn herself in, the police suddenly arrived. Cheon Tae-hwa thought Dojin had called the police and betrayed her, so without hesitation, she pushed her son down and chose to escape. When Yanho wanted to chase after Cheon Tae-hwa, Dojin held Yanho tightly. After escaping, Cheon Tae-hwa could only end up fighting with street beggars for a place to sleep. When hungry, she could only stare at the street-side steamed bun shop and swallow her saliva. Unable to bear it anymore, she went to a pawn shop. She tore off the diamond from her clothes to exchange for money. The diamond worth $1,000,000 could only be exchanged for 300,000 won at the pawn shop owner's place. Cheon Tae-hwa could only agree. Right after she left, the owner dialed the reward hotline. The informant reward was 30 million won. At that moment, Cheon Tae-hwa was excitedly taking the money she just got to buy a few steamed buns. But the next second, it was all snatched away by a motorcycle gang. Just as Cheon Tae-hwa was about to chase after them, police sirens suddenly sounded. Scared, Cheon Tae-hwa quickly hid in an alley. Seeing her disheveled self in the mirror, Cheon Tae-hwa cried miserably. At this moment, Cheon Tae-hwa didn't feel she had done anything wrong at all. Instead, she felt all this was thanks to Yanho. Unwilling to give up, she found Sayla to help her prepare escape money. She promised to give all her shares in the group to Sayla. Hearing such benefits, Sayla immediately agreed. Cheon Tae-hwa, focused only on escaping, didn't yet know that her 3 children had been tortured by her to the point of wishing they were dead. Her eldest son Sungjin was kicked out of the house by the chairman for covering for her. Her second son Dojin now faced divorce. Even her youngest daughter Yojin had just learned that her boyfriend Kim Suk-hoon had only approached her for revenge. Unable to accept this cruel truth, Yojin desperately walked into the middle of the road. Just as she was about to be hit, Kim Suk-hoon rushed forward recklessly and pushed Yojin away, but he himself fell in a pool of blood. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa was still waiting for Sayla to bring money. Little did she know the police had already targeted her. Soon Officer Huang found where Cheon Tae-hwa was staying, but when he opened the door, he discovered only Sayla was in the room. Cheon Tae-hwa had already escaped in advance. With Sungjin's help, Cheon Tae-hwa successfully evaded police pursuit. Sungjin blamed his mother for making their lives a mess. Learning about her children's situations, Cheon Tae-hwa was also heartbroken. To comfort her daughter Yojin, Cheon Tae-hwa took the initiative to arrange a meeting with her to express her guilt. But Cheon Tae-hwa didn't expect her daughter had leaked the information to the police in advance. By the time Cheon Tae-hwa realized it, it was too late. Cheon Tae-hwa was ultimately handed over to the police by her own daughter. Dojin's whole family came to Hyunsu's house to apologize. They hoped to save this marriage. But for Hyunsu, seeing Dojin only reminded her of her deceased father. Even though it pained her, Hyunsu insisted on divorce. Hyunsu's grandmother not only wanted her to divorce but also wanted Yanho to come back and live with this family. Facing her 2 husbands, Hyunsu didn't know what to do. What shocked everyone even more was that Yanho also wanted to come back to live in this house. It turned out he had learned he didn't actually have Alzheimer's disease. It was all a conspiracy plotted by Kim Suk-hoon to get him to join in revenge. Since he wasn't sick, he wanted to reclaim the position that originally belonged to him. Soon, Yanho brought his luggage to Hyunsu's house. Grandmother was very happy to welcome her former son-in-law back. Only Hyunsu stood to the side with very complicated feelings. She angrily asked Yanho why he had to move in. At least she hadn't divorced Dojin yet. Seeing his wife's displeased expression, Yanho felt indescribable pain. He only knew he had slept and lost everything. So now he didn't want to watch his wife and son belong to someone else anymore. If Hyunsu still loved Dojin, he didn't care. He was willing to spend time waiting. After so many days of thinking, Hyunsu finally made a difficult choice. She took off the wedding ring Dojin had given her and returned it to him. Initially, Hyunsu planned to end relationships with both husbands, but to give her son a complete family, Unfortunately, she had no choice but to choose to live with Yanho. At least the child would have his biological father by his side. Hearing these words, tears involuntarily fell from Dojin's eyes. He pitifully begged Hyunsu not to abandon him, but Dojin ultimately couldn't change anything. After spending some time together, Yanho thought his son had completely accepted him as his dad. But when he saw the picture book the child drew, he realized how important Dojin was in Isong's heart. So before Dojin was about to leave the country, Yanho brought the child over to let them meet one last time. Isong didn't know this was the last time he would see his stepfather. When he learned Dojin was leaving, he seemed very disappointed. Being able to see the child one last time fulfilled Dojin's wish. He could finally leave Korea with peace of mind. Completely unaware, Hyunsu was still packing Dojin's belongings. She planned to have him take back all the items he had left behind. But at the company, she unexpectedly saw Dojin's resignation letter. After some hesitation, the lady still told Hyunsu that her stepson was leaving. Hyunsu, who had originally let go of this relationship, completely panicked at this moment. At that time, Dojin had already arrived at the airport. But just as Dojin was about to board the plane, he received a call that his mother had fainted. It turned out Cheon Tae-hwa had been bullied by thugs in prison, causing her to be knocked unconscious. This forced Dojin, who was just about to board the plane, to give up going abroad. After the doctor's rescue efforts, Cheon Tae-hwa ultimately saved her life. But unfortunately, she had become a vegetative patient. The trial would have to be postponed again. Yanho came to the hospital to check on the situation. He was very surprised to see Dojin. Dojin hoped he wouldn't tell Hyunsu he had come back. Thinking Dojin had already left, Hyunsu was prepared to forget the past. Yanho wanted to tell Hyunsu about Dojin's news, but Hyunsu stopped him. She asked for the couple bracelet she and Yanho once had. She decided to return to Yanho's side again. Everyone's lives seemed to return to calm, except for the comatose Cheon Tae-hwa. The doctor couldn't understand it at all. The examination showed no problems, but Cheon Tae-hwa just wouldn't wake up. Little did they know this was all Sungjin's plan. He had already had other doctors inject sedatives for his mother to keep her in a sleeping state. As long as they fooled the police, they could successfully apply to go abroad for treatment. Then he and his mother could escape abroad and live carefree lives. That day, Hyunsu's mother came to the hospital and suddenly saw Dojin. She hurriedly tried to catch up and say hello, but she accidentally ended up in Cheon Tae-hwa's hospital room. At that time, Cheon Tae-hwa had woken up, but her mental state seemed abnormal. She had forgotten Hyunsu's mother. She frantically grabbed her, begging her to take her away. Scared, Hyunsu's mother ran away. Fortunately, she ran into Dojin. Learning his mother had woken up, Dojin was shocked. But when they arrived at the hospital room, Cheon Tae-hwa had fallen asleep again. Sungjin insisted that he and the doctor had been there the whole time. They hadn't seen their mother wake up. However, Dojin sensed something was wrong. His mother's soles were dirty. How could someone bedridden have marks on the bottom of their feet? Dojin realized his mother was faking illness. He wanted to wake her up. Strangely, his mother had no reaction at all. Sungjin insisted Dojin was being too sensitive. Meanwhile, the lady had already obtained evidence of Sungjin misappropriating public funds. To stop the lady from reporting him, Sayla lied in desperation, saying she was pregnant. The lady quickly took Sayla to the hospital for examination. Facing the doctor, Sayla was anxious, thinking about how to cover up her lie. But to her complete surprise, she was actually pregnant. For a moment, Sayla didn't know whether to feel fortunate or worried. She had already asked Sungjin for a divorce. The lady realized she couldn't keep watching Sungjin make mistakes. After all, he was going to be a father. The lady chose to give him time to sort everything out. She let him turn himself involuntarily. Little did she know Sungjin would waste this last opportunity too. Sungjin secretly came to the lady's office and copied the group's latest technology. He planned to take this new technology abroad to sell for money. After preparing everything, he planned to escape abroad with his mother. But Sayla's pregnancy left him torn. Under Cheon Tae-hwa's instigation, Sungjin decided to abandon his wife and child. Soon it was the day Cheon Tae-hwa applied to go abroad for treatment. Sungjin followed his mother onto the ambulance with great anticipation. This time, mother and son could finally escape abroad to live carefree lives. Little did they know their plan had already been discovered by the police. The vehicle they got into was an ambulance the police had switched out. Cheon Tae-hwa began fantasizing about a beautiful future life. But Sungjin looked gloomy. He began worrying about Sayla and the child. At that time, Sayla called, but Cheon Tae-hwa hung up directly. Sungjin could only choose to give up the past. However, Sungjin suddenly realized they weren't on the way to the airport. When the car door opened, mother and son completely broke down. What appeared before them was actually Yanho's face. The two evildoers were finally caught. When Sayla learned that Sungjin had actually abandoned her to escape alone, she couldn't believe it at all. She questioned how Sungjin could be so heartless. But Sungjin secretly slipped the USB drive into Sayla's hand. Sayla didn't understand what this was. When she opened it, she realized it was the group's confidential documents. She instantly understood Sungjin wanted her to sell the technology for money. Sungjin told Sayla the transaction location. He hoped Sayla could help him one more time. After repeated consideration, Sayla decided to take a risk. However, when Sungjin was anxiously waiting for Sayla to complete the transaction, the lady told him the technology had already been patented. No buyer would dare to buy it. Only then did Sungjin realize he had fallen into a trap, and he had harmed Sayla this time. When Sayla arrived at the buyer's room, the buyer discovered there was a problem with the documents. Thinking he was being played, he angrily was about to teach Sayla a lesson. The next second, police burst through the door. It turned out that for the sake of the baby in her belly, Sayla ultimately decided to redeem herself through meritorious service. When Sungjin met his mother again in prison, both mother and son had already become prisoners. Cheon Tae-hwa felt extremely guilty toward her son. Her son also refused to acknowledge his mother anymore. He couldn't forgive his mother for pushing him into the abyss. But what he couldn't forgive even more was that he had watched his mother commit crimes with his own eyes. Both of them finally received the punishment they deserved. Cheon Tae-hwa thought she had lost her son forever, but she didn't know Sungjin had been writing letters to Yanho all along. He hoped Yanho could forgive his mother. When Cheon Tae-hwa saw the letter her son wrote, she finally finally came to her senses. Ultimately, Yanho received an apology from Cheon Tae-hwa. Dojin lived in pain outside because of the crimes his mother committed. To reduce his guilt toward Hyunsu, he transferred all his property to Hyunsu's son. This was to atone for his mother's sins. Yanho looked at the couple bracelet he shared with Hyunsu and saw it had a crack. He knew this was like their relationship, it also had cracks. It seemed that keeping Hyunsu tied to his side wouldn't make either of them happy. So he told Hyunsu about Dojin's upcoming departure abroad. He hoped Hyunsu could make her own choice. Hyunsu's mind suddenly went blank. Ultimately, she still couldn't control her heart and chased after him. Hyunsu collapsed as she rushed to the airport. She kept searching for Dojin's figure. She wasn't willing to not make a final goodbye. But the moment she saw Dojin, Hyunsu began to hesitate. She didn't know what meaning there was in chasing after him. Since they were destined to have no future together, it would be better to let go. Just as she turned to leave, Dojin's voice suddenly came from behind. Looking at the person they loved deeply, neither knew what to say. Ultimately, they only made their final goodbye. Even at the end, neither chose to return to the past. Only after boarding the plane did Dojin take out the letter Cheon Tae-hwa had written to him. In the letter, his mother sincerely apologized to Dojin. She begged for Dojin's forgiveness. Dojin had waited too long for his mother to admit her mistakes. He couldn't help but shed painful tears. At the same time, Cheon Tae-hwa also looked desperately at the plane in the sky. She shed tears of despair with great heartache. As her palm slid down, Cheon Tae-hwa's life also came to an end. A year passed in a flash. Sayla gave birth to triplets. With her parents' help, she was raising her 3 children. Ultimately, she still didn't choose to divorce. Looking at photos of the children, Sungjin was filled with happiness. He only hoped to be released from prison soon to enjoy family happiness. Yanho returned to his identity as a designer, doing work he loved. He also had more time to spend with his son. Hyunsu's career was also getting better and better. Everyone's lives had returned to calm. When Hyunsu returned home, she saw a postcard that had fallen on the ground. It was one she, her son, and Dojin had sent together to 1 year in the future. Now things had changed. Only then did Hyunsu realize their shared wish back then was both hoping the other would be happy. So ultimately, Hyunsu decided to let go of everything from the past and accept a new life. She decided to be with Yanho again, making up for the 7 years they had lost. The lady looked at the happy and harmonious scene before her and felt very comforted. Although the journey had been extremely difficult, ultimately it allowed her to see the moon through the clouds. This concludes the Korean drama, You Are My Gift. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dino K-Drama. See you in the next Korean drama.